Good evening, everybody. My name is Chris Hallager. I am a current Up2Us coach with youth mentoring partnership at the Coachable area intermediate high school. I'm going to be your moderator for tonight, and thank you all for checking into tonight's Alumni Spotlight, Coaches Transforming Communities. This is going to be a great conversation. We have two of our former coaches with us today, two of our former coaches. One of them is Miss Janeicia Neely. She is a coach alum from 2020 and 2021 at the Langston Hughes Academy. And also we have Mr. Curtis DeVoe, who is a former coach from 2017, 2018. And he is the current founder and president of City Athletics. So before we go ahead and get started, again, you guys go ahead and kick back, relax, get comfortable. We want to make sure that this is a conversation that everybody feels like they are getting something out of, and that they feel comfortable being a part of this conversation, even if it's directly or indirectly. But before we get started, I want to make sure that we all draw attention to our social media campaign currently right now. If you have a coach that you would like to recognize in your community at any point in time, go ahead in your social media and hashtag thanks coach. This is a campaign that we've been running for a little bit now, and it's caught the attention of both Fox News and rapper Lil Wayne, who also went ahead and hashtag thanks coach on Twitter and gave one of his coaches some recognition for the work that he's done in his life. Again, if you guys feel like you want to recognize a coach who's done great work in your community, feel free to go on your social media and hashtag thanks coach and give your coach a shout out. Also, speaking of coaches who are making an impact, like I said, we have two of our great coaches here with us today. And we have Mr. Curtis and Janeicia. So if you guys would like to, go ahead and share a little bit about yourselves and what you guys are currently doing.
I'll go ahead. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Chris. So like he mentioned, my name is Janeicia Neely. I served with KIP East through the 18th Ward this past season as an Up2Us coach. And I am currently teaching PE at Langston Hughes Academy, where I have an Up2Us coach coaching under me. Prior to that, I worked for the Saints and the Pelicans in youth programs. Prior to that, I played basketball overseas as well as collegiately. So my path to becoming a coach has kind of been transition after transition, but fairly smooth transitions because it was always sports involved. So that is me.
Awesome, and thank you, Janeicia. And Curtis, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing now.
Yeah, hi everyone. Kurt DeVoe. I was Up2Us coach with the Anderson Monarchs in 2017 through 2018. So right now I'm currently the founder and president of City Athletics, which is basically a kind of like a private rec center that we took an old church and converted it into recreation space. We do basketball, volleyball, indoor soccer. And it's been great to be able to pilot impactful programming in Philly. It's much needed. So yeah, that's kind of, so my pathway to coaching was a reluctant one. So actually started with my own kids, started to play, and I signed them up with the Anderson Monarchs. And it's a funny story because the founder of the Monarchs, Steve Mandor, who is my coach, and I'm gonna give him a thanks coach hashtag. He was like, "Hey man, I can't make basketball this week. Can you do it?" I was like, "No." And so I reluctantly did it. And then it was like the next week, he was like, "Hey, yeah, I have another conflict. I can't make basketball. Can you do it?" And I was like, "Man, like, what's up with this dude?" Like, And so one day I just finally was like, "Man, like you can't make any of the away games, can you?" He was like, "No, man, but that's what I got you for." So that was about 10 years ago, and I've been hooked ever since.
And thank you so much for sharing that, Curtis. Also, one thing I forgot to mention, Janeicia is also our 2021, one of our 2021 Coaches of the Year. And we have some articles about both Janeicia and Curtis in the comments section. So if you guys want some more information, feel free to tap into those articles and read a little bit more about some of our panelists.
Congratulations, Janeicia.
Thank you. Thank y'all.
Yes, a shout out to you. All right, so we are going to go ahead and we are going to get started. So our first question that we've got for you guys. So what is the most important lesson that either of you have learned as an Up2Us coach? And either one of you can feel free to start.
I'll go. So one of the most important lessons I've learned is to kind of like what it takes to really have the most impact is for you to immerse yourself as a coach and be tangible and being present to the youth that you impact. I'm an introvert, and really being able to step outside that to really impact the kids and impact the youth. And at the Up2Us, at the training, it was like I'm not gonna lie, I was like, man, this is like, I was like sick of it. I was like, everything is just so, like just outward. And it really, like, going to the training really pushed me and helped me become a better coach. And I always tell people, I'm out here acting, but I love acting for the kids. And so that was one of the most important lessons I learned. And being transparent and being available and being present has allowed me to have some great relationships through coaching.
Yeah, I would say similarly. When I read this question, the first thing that came to mind was just being there for the kids makes such a difference. And then even for me, learning how to respond to a variety of behaviors. That's something that I've been able to carry into my position at Langston Hughes, where the number of kids that I'm serving is a bit bigger. But I would say as long as they know that you care about them, and I mean, I guess this is something that obviously as a former athlete, I knew this beforehand, but in me stepping into the coaching role, that was just made so much more clear to me. Like, as long as they know that you care about them, and that you, in addition to that, are there for them, then that will be the best situation, I would say, for everyone involved, kids and all of the coaches.
Absolutely. And I really want to highlight a point that Curtis had made as well, talking about being introverted as a coach. And I wanted to kind of put an emphasis on, or rather ask a question of Curtis, how did you go about building healthy relationships with your kids, kind of like running into that obstacle? Because sometimes, even as coaches, some of our kids can kind of have that issue as well, being a little bit more shy, coming out their shell. So what were some of the strategies that you used to connect with your kids who are going through some of those issues?
I think an important part is to have a good team, a good support, a lot of great support around you, and realizing that there are going to be kids that that's going to gravitate to you and the way you coach and your style, and not trying to be a blanket where you can, some kids you're just going to have a better relationship with others because you identify with some more than others. And so I think understanding that, having other coaches around you and understanding your personality and supporting it with others who may be different than you, because at the end of the day, it's about trying to give every kid a great experience. So I think just it helped me understand myself in a way where it was like, okay, I say this a lot of coaches have a hammer and that's it, and it's every kid isn't a nail. Some kids are screws, and So to be able to have those different tools and understand and to know that, hey, listen, I'm a hammer, to be able to self-identify in that way. So I think, some of that challenge and being able to navigate around that, is all part of it.
Thank you for that. That was awesome. That was a very powerful answer, realizing that not all students will be a nail and that some of our coaches can be a hammer. Even so, in some of our meetings that we have with YMP, we realize that some of our coaches that we have might have an older style that might be a little bit more concrete versus some of our coaches who currently have a more fluid style of coaching. And also, as we already know, one style doesn't always fit all. And I totally agree with everything that you're saying. I want to go ahead and move on to our next question that says, can you describe the evolution of both of you guys from being an Up2Us coach to doing the work that you do now? And Janeicia, let's go ahead and start with you this time.
Sure. So for me, I was able to begin my journey as an Up2Us coach while I was still working full-time for the Saints and the Pelicans. And so in my position with them, I was a youth programs associate, and my main duty or main responsibility was to visit schools and host these mini basketball camps, these mini football camps. And we would do this as an event for all of these schools. And we would pretty much hit or attend like 3 to 4 schools a week. And so when I became an Up2Us sports coach, and I was able to work with one group of kids, it made me realize that that is what I wanted to do more so than just interacting with a group for 30 minutes and then not seeing them again until next year. So I would say the evolution was kind of was natural, just because I really enjoyed being able to get to know the kids, being able to see their improvement over time and like even see their confidence grow over time. And in my position now, I'm at a school, so I'm with multiple groups of kids, hopefully over the course of a few years. So I will be able to be a part of their growth, of just their overall, school journey. So for me, it was more of a natural transition and just figuring out what I enjoyed most about being able to lead a group of kids and seeing them grow was probably the main thing for me.
Love that. I love that. What about you, Curtis? What do you think? What can you describe the evolution that you went through of going from being an Up2Us coach to some of the work that you do now?
Yeah, so I mean, kind of like with Janeicia, like it was that like natural evolution. I mean, like, just transitioning. I think one of the, going to the Up2Us training and spending time as an Up2Us coach only like reinforced area that I was strongly gravitating to. And I think something that was extremely impactful was the science behind connecting with the kids, right? The trauma informed information, about the brain and just how kids respond and react. And it just reinforced and gave it gave like credence to some of the things that we already did well, and it helped me do certain things better. And it just kind of was an important step on the path for me to realize that this was an area that I wanted to serve in. So so I think being equipped with the foundation for just some of the the data and the information around youth sports and how it impacts and how to relate, the benefits and what kids get out of it, and ultimately what we get out of it. I think it helped in that evolution, and it helped just reinforce you know, the ideas that I already had around youth sports and youth development and programming.
Thank you for that. There was one point that Janeicia made that I wanted to kind of follow up on, and that was that she said she wanted to keep working with her kids rather than only seeing them for 30 minutes at a time, which I think I totally agree with, and that's something that we all mainly are dealing with coaches as well. You know, we're in these schools, we're dealing with some of our students for maybe 20, 30 minutes a day, or maybe even a little bit longer. So I wanted to ask you guys, or I wanted to rather bring to attention, it's very important to also have, for students, a coach that's going to stay with you and continue to follow you as you're going throughout your collegiate journey, I guess I really could say. So from you guys' experience, from staying with your students, what would you say is some of the biggest impacts that you've seen or some of the biggest changes that you've made within your kids?
So I mean, I would say so I'm fortunate to have been a part of the Anderson Monarchs, where we have a cohort model where kids, you know, where we do multiple sports together all year round. So the same, you know, 7-year-olds, you know, are doing baseball, basketball, soccer all year round, which creates a unbelievable peer group. And the longer we can keep that peer group together, I mean, we've had cohorts of kids that start at 7 and pretty much stay together till they're 17. And it's pretty amazing to see the camaraderie, to see the level of, you know, the deep connections and impact and relationships. So much so that we almost we're developing an alumni where you know, kids, some of the kids are going to the same schools, but you know, when they come home on break, they get together. And those kind of relationships where it's that kind of trust, kind of support and commitment, is really what it's all about. And so I do get to see the impact of having kids for more than just a half hour or more than just a particular season, where, you know, I get called from mom and dad and the teacher and the grandparents, and, you know, so I think having that kind of community is important. And as much as you can have those interactions and have that kind of impact, I think it ultimately is, you know, it creates extremely healthy and an extremely healthy environment.
Thank you for that. And Janeicia, what do you think? So again, the question was, what do you think is one of the most rewarding parts of staying and following your kids throughout their collegiate experience, or their athletic experience, I should say. Sorry about that.
Yeah, so I think along with the relationships and everything that is built, um, I've been able to see a noticeable difference in like individual confidence level. Um, I worked at, like I mentioned, at Kip East, and I was able to stay with that group for a while. And there were a few student athletes who weren't really, I don't know, they weren't for certain sports. And eventually we were kind of able to get them to come along and see that they could enjoy it too. And then that turned into them, you know, being confident in what they were doing and feeling more comfortable. So you know, along with them being able to build friendships with kids that might not be in the same classes with them, or kids that they may not see on a regular basis, you know, they're able to build some confidence in themselves, and you know, hopefully that carries on into the school environment and in other places. So um, that's probably the main thing that I've seen, is just their confidence grow.
That's awesome, because I know that's one of the things that helps build a greater sense of community, which is very important because, you know, when we're on that sports field, that's where a lot of those relationships are built, like you guys were saying. And in that, I'm going to go ahead and transition to the next question, which is, why is your community important to you, and how does that show up in the work you do?
I think for me, I read this question and the first thing that popped into my head was that it is. And I think the reason that it just is because there is typical, I know for myself, but I'm sure for other people too, there's just this deep rooted sense of pride that you have in where you're from. And so to be able to kind of impact um, kids where you're from or just anyone in your environment, um, that's super meaningful, you know, to be able to influence someone in a positive way. Um, it means a lot. And I would say that shows up in the work we do because it has to show that we care about the people we're working with, about the kids we're working with, and it has to show that we take pride in the people who are around us as well as you know, just the place we grew up, the place where we're from. So yeah, to state what I said in the beginning, it really is, you know.
I love that, and I love that you can attest to the importance again of having that community around you and uplifting them. And Curtis, would you mind sharing as well how you feel like your community is important to you, and how does that show up in the work that you do as well?
So Janeicia, I was like, the question was just, I don't know, it just seemed kind of weird. Like, why is your, like, cause it is, that's why, you know? So, I mean, you know, it's, it's important because that's where we're from. Like, that's, you know, that's your family, you know? And, you know, you want to take care of your family. You want to see them succeed and you want to see them achieve. And, you know, you know, you identify with your community, and you know it makes it extremely important because you are a product of that community and you want to see good for it. You know, some of the things, you know, obviously pride in your community. um Oftentimes, like, we, you know, being in the community, like, you know, the potential in your community and you want to see that potential fulfilled. um you know how important representation is, right? So Janeicia, you're a, I mean, you know, you're a black woman. My daughters, they play sports, and I could probably count on one finger how many black women coaches they've had in like soccer and stuff. So, um, you know, and ultimately, you just like you care about like where you're from, and I think those things, you know, show up. That's why Janeicia is going to win this award or won the award because it shows up and the work that we do, that pride, you know, realizing that it's untapped potential. So trying to reach those kids, making sure that, you know, advocating for representation in some of the sports that, you know, where when kids see people look like them coaching them and mentoring them, it makes them feel like they belong there. And, you know, just an overall sense of caring about the people that are close to you that you impact. So it was kind of like, my community important to me because that's where I'm from, you know. So but yeah, so and I think, you know, I think you know, that's how it shows up. You know, you can genuinely see when people, you know, coaches have a passion, which the majority of them do, because, you know, it's on the, especially on the youth level, it's like, you know, we're not getting Nick Saban numbers, you know what I mean? So it's like, and it just shows up. You're present and you care, and you know, you try to reach kids where they're at and try to move them forward.
Thank you. And I think that's a really powerful point that you guys made by saying that, you know, representation matters in these different communities. You know, it's hard to have an idea of where you can possibly go if you don't have an idea of, you know, how to get there. And I think that some of these coaches also serve as that point for some of these kids. And with that being said, I wanted to ask you guys, who are some of the people or what are some of the resources that helped you also get to where you are in the work that you do as well?
I've had a few. It's funny you talk about, you know, your daughters not having um, any black female coach.
Can everybody still hear Janeicia okay? I think we might have lost you, or you're muted.
Yeah.
Janeicia, I think we lost you on the audio side. And Curtis is also muted as well.
No, I'm not muted. I'm trying to tell her she's muted.
Oh, you're a good man. Thank you.
I try to help out where I can.
It's all good. Thank you. Janeicia, are you still with us?
Yes.
All right, we got you back.
Yes, we can hear you. Perfect.
AirPod issue. But I was just saying, I was able to have a few women coaches who I didn't realize this until recently, but I never thought, it never crossed my mind that I couldn't be a coach. And so that just goes to your point, like representation does matter. And I had, like I said, maybe I was muted at this time, but Coach Barbara, Black woman, she coached me 7th grade. Coach Nancy Walsh coached me in high school. And I credit both of them because with Coach Barbara, I was able to play a variety of sports. With Coach Walsh, I kind of honed in on basketball, and that's what took me the farthest. And so, just as far as what I learned from them, I would say, as with just being a coach, like I mentioned before, being present. Both of those women were very much present. I was probably an annoying little child because I wanted to learn everything and wanted to be in the gym. And Coach Nancy Walsh allowed me to do that. Coach Barbara, like I said, I was a child at the time, so I was probably super annoying, but she never made me feel as though, my questions or my enthusiasm for whatever it was that we were playing was annoying or unwarranted or anything like that. She encouraged it. So I would say both of those women had a huge impact in my life. I also had a head college coach, who was a woman, Coach Kelly Kennedy. And I would say at the collegiate level, I I learned just persistence. I mentioned this in one of my other, I think in like the coach of the year, but like just the consistency that it took to play at the level that we were playing at, and the encouragement and feedback, like constant feedback that we got from her, um, made a huge difference. So yes, representation matters. And I have been fortunate to be able to have a really great group of coaches that have impacted me directly.
I love that because it's absolutely true. And the fact that also, research backs that where the most impacts are made in children's lives, might not be at home, it might not be from your neighbors, but it's really from coaches who are making that impact. So Curtis, if you'd like to also go ahead and follow up on that, who are some of the people or resources to help you get to where you are? Or can you describe a coach that you've had in your life and what did you learn from them?
So it's funny that I actually didn't play sports growing up. So my coach came like later on, and Steve Bandor, who's the founder of the Monarchs, and he's had a huge impact on me, and just the power of coaching, the power of youth sports, and specifically one of the things that I learned from Steve was selflessness. And I remember, right? So Steve, at the time, 10 years ago, he, the area that his organization operates in, is a kind of like an impoverished area. And Steve is this white guy. And I remember like going down and meeting him and seeing what the program was about. And it was almost like a challenge. I felt like if this white man can be committed, this impoverished area of kids that really don't look like him, like what excuse do I have, other than to, commit? And so, it inspired me to work with Steve. I mean, we still talk every day, and but selflessness and like Janeicia, like she kind of touched on it quite a few times, just being present. Um, a lot of times is, being able to be dependable. The kids know you're there. They know they can count on you. Um, I think it's one of the underrated things about being a coach. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to know all of the ins and outs, but just being able to be there and be a platform. So Steve is, he's been a great mentor, a great friend, and I've learned so much from him. Just over the years, and seeing how he's just been committed to the kids and the mission of his organization.
I think that's a powerful message in the fact that, sometimes there, like you were saying before, there is no one size fits all on how to go ahead and, coach a child. And I think that what you were saying kind of echoes that a little bit. And even as coaches, sometimes we need a little bit more patience. We needed little extra things in our tool belts to also help make that impact in our kids' lives. So with that, we're gonna go ahead and switch gears. This is our last question before our Q&A from the audience. I see you've already got some coming in. So let's go ahead and hit this last question. It says, what advice would you pass along to others who want to follow a similar path to either of you guys? And Janeicia, if you wouldn't mind, could you go ahead and kick us off with this one?
Sure. So, it's been mentioned a ton of times so far, just be present. Like, even if you don't know what to say, you being there could make all the difference. I know for myself, it took me a second to like be silly. That also goes a long way. If you can, joke with the kids, that'll kind of break some barriers every now and then. That's probably a big one, honestly. That can build relationships very easily. And then that would help you to, coach or teach whatever it is that you're teaching. That would help with that as well. And then also be open to feedback. For my stint as an Up2Us coach last season, I worked under Lowry Cruz, who's executive director of the ATs board, and I constantly picked his brain, like, this kid isn't necessarily responding to me. What would you do in this situation? Like, what are some techniques that you use in order to get this child to listen or to behave or to participate? And that was very helpful for me. And now, as someone who has a coach under them, I try to do the same. Like, if I see something, I'm like, all right, coach, if you were to stand here, you would be able to coach this kid, you would be able to see that group, you would be able to cheer on the group across the way, so on and so forth. So those are probably the top things that I would say. Be present, be silly, and be open to feedback.
I like that. I think that's something that everybody can definitely take with them. And I'll give Curtis a little bit more time to think about his answer too, because I wanted to go ahead and kind of insert mine in there too. And I think it kind of parallels and echoes what you were saying a little bit, Janeicia, with making sure that you're being open-minded as a coach, and making sure that, you're able to meet some of your students on some of their levels. Sometimes when it comes to coaching, it can be just like trying to order at a restaurant, Sometimes you can go maybe into a foreign restaurant, try and look at the menu and try and communicate with the waiter, and you're not sure how to go ahead and get your order across because you guys might not speak the same language per se. Whereas if you go to a restaurant you're familiar with, you've been to before, you're able to look at it, get that message across easily with that waiter because you guys speak the same language. And sometimes with coaching, it can be the same way with some of our kids, making sure that we're able to stoop down to their level and kind of understand the language where they're coming from and understand their viewpoints with things, because sometimes they might not always be heard out all the time. So Curtis, if you wouldn't mind, could you go ahead and share some of your advice that you'd like to pass along to others following your path?
Yeah, so I think like the silly part, I definitely had to like kind of like open up a little bit and crack some jokes, and so that is like one of my points is like be relatable, right? Understand the demographic of kids that you're coaching or the team that you're coaching, understand and be relatable. So I coached baseball for a while, and I never played. I don't know anything about baseball, but it's little things like, at one time a few years ago they was wearing like these rope necklaces, right? So, I knew that that's what baseball players were doing, so we went out and got them. So we try to, just trying to be relatable and try to understand, where the kids are coming from. I think another thing is, and it's funny because we want this from all the players, but as a coach, be coachable, right? Like Janeicia said, be open to feedback, right? So we expect our players to be coachable, but as a coach, it's like everything is set in stone. We're not coachable and open to that feedback, or we don't even put ourselves in positions to be, critiqued or evaluated. So, I would say be a better coach than you had, right? So I have kids, and from a parent standpoint, I don't necessarily want my kids to be like me. I want them to be better than me. And from a coaching standpoint, I hear a lot of, athletes. It might be a little jealousy there that I didn't play sports growing up, but I hear a lot of athletes talk about like these amazing coaches that they have. And I oftentimes think, well, what if you could be better than that amazing coach that you had? So I definitely would say try to be, once you get, your coaching shoes, and just be better than the coach you had. And then I would say be empathetic. Be empathetic to, just the sensitivities and around the kids and the situations that they deal with. And try to understand, right? I've seen coaches not understand and not be empathetic and drop kids away from the sport, or whatever sport. Or so I think that's that's a big one. And while there is at times a lot at stake, it's not worth those things. Whatever is at stake is not worth sacrificing the youth or the kids. So I would just say, be a better coach than you had. Be relatable, be empathetic, and and just be willing to grow.
Awesome. Thank you both for that. I think we got some great takeaways from all of that. And again, thank you so much. As of right now, it is 6:12. We are going to go ahead and shift to our next portion. It's going to be audience Q&A. We already got a few coming in already. One is from Jack Callahan. And he had asked, can you think of a specific time when you knew that you were making an impact on a young person's life? And what was that like for you?
I can start with this one. I feel like I realized this more so when I receive comments from parents and from people who are around that child. There was a kid in my program, or the program that I coached in, whose mom reached out to me and said, this program might have saved my daughter's life. And that blew my mind because I was like, we're just, we're playing basketball, we're playing flag football, and this is not even real competitive because they don't know how to play yet. And, here this lady is saying that this structure and this community and this group might have saved her life. So I would say it's more noticeable after a period of time, or when someone who's around that kid also notices the difference and points it out to you.
That is powerful. The sport itself is powerful, and realizing that we can impact people's lives by making a difference, even in a skill that they might not fully have developed yet, really does say a lot. And Curtis, if you'd like to go ahead and chime in on this question as well. To repeat the question, it was, well, can you think of a specific time you knew you were making an impact, and what was that like for you?
Yeah, man, just off the top of my head, like the fact that kids remember me, like, you know what I mean? Like I might not have seen a kid in 2 or 3 years, and they've grown and they like, hey, Coach Kurt. I'm like, so I mean, I think, just quickly, like off the top of my head, like, obviously they remember you and you had some level of impact. Like one of the things that One of the things that I always say that we want to accomplish is to improve the quality of life of the kids while they are part of our programs. And you know, just being able to measure that, like Janeicia said, through testimony from parents and teachers and family, I think is always powerful. And you know, those type of things are ways that we are able to see that.
Absolutely. And I think one thing that we often forget as well is that as coaches, our work is just as appreciated as anybody else out there, and it's definitely just as crucial as well. And thank you. So we have another question as well from somebody in the audience. This is from Frank. And he says, what would you say to someone who is skeptical of SBYD techniques or coaching styles?
Yeah, so I'm not gonna lie, I was skeptical, right? So I'm like, man, we're gonna go down to this training. I was already coaching, and I just was like happy go lucky, everything is cherry, and just like, and you know, like I do have a military background, so I'm like, I'm a hammer, right? I was a hammer. And but I mean, I think you really have to be focused on understand like what is the outcome, like what is the outcome that you're looking for, and if you're trying to improve the quality of life of the youth, you know, you have to be open to as a coach to trying to connect, because all of the data, all of the science show that players perform better when they're not, you know, they're not stressed, they're not in a state of you know, their anxiety is low. And if the ultimate, from a coach, the ultimate goal is to connect with those players and have those players perform. I don't see, you know, how you could be skeptical of these alternate methods for different kids. I think it's a lack of knowledge, and a lot of coaches want to be the coach that they had, you know, not understanding that, you know, just so much changes. Like, you know, you can be a dinosaur, but like, what happened to them? You know, so I mean, you could be skeptical, but you know, like when you start to dig in and start to understand, and you start to see that investing in your craft as a coach means that you have to be open to different styles.
I love that. And like we were saying, it's not like one size is always going to fit all. And Janeicia, would you have something you'd also like to add to that as well?
Yeah, I would say the first thing that came to mind is like the person who is skeptical. I don't know, they have to be coachable to a certain extent. Like that coach is expectant of their kids to be coachable, and so they should, you know, be the same way. So I think it's tough. I think that I I would probably try to give some examples of how this worked for me. Um, but the main thing that I would encourage is like, hey, you know, you're expecting your kids to be coachable. This is something you can do as well.
Absolutely. And if I may add to that as well, if somebody is skeptical about some of these techniques, you also have to remember that for some of these kids, it's not just a matter of sport. You know, it sometimes can be a matter of survival and developing some of those survival skills that they need in some of their communities. You know, where somebody might feel like one thing might be normal for them and might not feel like it's normal for somebody else. And also keeping in mind that these are things that people can take with them in their everyday life as well. And again, thank you guys for that question. Let's see, we got another one from Daytwan. This one's for Curtis. It says, what was the first step in opening a rec center in Philly? And he would love to do the same in his city one day.
You got to be crazy. Nah, I mean, I think, just really just have the vision, had a dream. And, you know, that's kind of what motivates me. Knowing that our kids deserve better, they deserve quality programming from coaches who are coachable, that care about the whole kid. But I think, you know, is identifying. So I was one of the key things was that I was fortunate enough to be a part of a program that had tenure. program that was around, had a great reputation. So I think like understanding that part and being able to you know, locate the space, locate the area, define what you want to get out of it. I'll be honest, like, you know, we opened in an area that is just not a very desirable area, and we had offers to go to places where people had a lot of money and, you know, could, you know, the facility might be nicer, might be, you know. So I think really defining what you want to get out of it and starting from there, starting from like what is your goal, and I think being able to kind of like tie that in with like your location and demographics, and, you know, where we open is a youth development desert. There, you know, we had a action with the community, and when they found we were established for, they were extremely supportive, and because they felt abandoned, they felt like they didn't have anything in that area. So I think, you know, say my internet is something. Okay, so yeah, I think location is important. You know, just like some of it is like just business stuff, like location, and all of that. But I think really understanding what you want to bring to the table and what you want to do, you know, finding a location, and you know, so
Location definitely matters. And I think one of the things that you were kind of talking about mainly kind of revolved around also setting a goal for that as well. Sound like that was like something that's really important in identifying how you want to go about executing your plan. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think what Daytwan said, he was in Coachville, so I definitely know that. You know, I'm familiar with the area, and, you know, like just being able to provide quality program, sure, is you know, something to be implemented. It's a huge void in the inner cities and places like Coatesville. You know, I found myself going out to the suburbs to take my kids to tournaments and games, and they having pristine facilities and just beautiful gyms and turf, and you know, and not just about the physical structure, but also about just the support. You know, they would have, you know, 4 coaches on the team, and it would just be me, like, just you know, so just realizing some of that, trying to provide the same level of care to you know, to the demographic that you want to serve, and be crazy.
Can't forget to be crazy.
Yeah, I said that twice. All
right. I think we are just about on our last question of the night. This one's coming from Candace. And again, thank you all for hanging in there. Last question of the night says, what advice do you give to people who want to make an impact in their communities, but they're not quite sure how to get started?
I would say figure out what it is that you like, and then volunteer your time. No one is going to refuse free help. And so if you can find, you know, we're all coaches here. So, you know, I'm sure you can easily find a team or someone that is needing some help, and then, you know, just attend that, do what you can. Um, but yeah, I would say volunteer. Volunteering can go a long way.
Volunteer. Okay. And Curtis, what do you got for us?
Yeah, man, it's kind of, you know, one of Janeicia's points all along has been just being there, right? Trying to be there, just kind of jump in. In particular, I want to, you know, for like, you don't have to know it all. I think sometimes people get, you know, caught up in perfection paralysis, where they're like, well, you know, like I said, I didn't grow up playing any sports, and I'm like coaching baseball and soccer and basketball. You know, I think one of the most important things is just to care. And if you care, you will grow in being a coach and gaining knowledge of the sport and learning how to connect with the kids. But I just think you want to make your impact your community. Obviously, find a program or something that you're aligned in. It doesn't have to be sports. It could be baking, robotics, whatever it is. But I think just kind of getting involved and just being there and being consistent. And like Janeicia said, nobody's gonna turn down free work, free labor.
There's anything that people do love, it is free labor and experience for sure. And thank you guys both so much for that as well. We're gonna go ahead and move on to the last slide that we've got for you guys. And thank you both so much for this panel. I think there was a lot that we could all take away from this. Last but not least, if you guys have any feedback, again, thank you for coming out. Feel free to fill out that survey that we have down there in the comment section below. We want to make sure that we're able to get as much feedback as possible so we can figure out how to help our coaches with moving forward in the future. So thank you, Janeicia. Thank you so much, Curtis, for both coming out, sharing your wisdom with all of us as coaches. This was an amazing time. And again, thank you for your time.
Thank you. No, I'm not. Thank you for having us. I appreciate it. It was great meeting you all, and just thanks for the opportunity. And I hope it helped and someone got something beneficial out of it.
Yes, thank you all. Thanks for tuning in and listening to us. Hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully we were a little entertaining. Thank you.
Once again, thank you all coaches. Thank you for coming out. This is such an enriching experience. And once again, please do not forget to fill out that survey that's in the link below. That's going to be super helpful in figuring out how we can keep serving our communities moving forward. And once again, don't forget to go on social media. Make sure you go ahead and hashtag thanks coach. Give one of your coaches some recognition in your community. If any of you guys have any more questions or would like any more information about any of our panelists, feel free to tap into the links that are below as well for the comment section. And thank you all for coming out.
Shout out to this photo. This is our program in Kip East. That's Coach Kalen.
Oh, nice.
Hey.
Awesome.